All right, guys, the only thing I want is a new, heated, and organized shop. So that's on the list for 2025. It's January 7th, I believe. And since we got the pinholes fixed on the gas tank, we're back on the Shadow. We have tried running this. It's doing really good, idling great, taking throttle. I think we're good on the carburetors and the spark plugs. Now, I think what we're doing is, we saw when it was running before, run strong, and then as the battery drains, it's not charging quite right. The next thing we found, I did use cheap connectors and get these charging wires fixed. I think we're gonna pull these out and actually do a full weld because we already have no connectors. So we might as well go ahead and weld them. You can always cut them later. You can buy a stator and a regulator rectifier if I need to. If it doesn't work in the end, then we'll just go ahead and replace them and start fresh with new. As you can see, we still have an oil leak for some reason. I have to maybe pull this cover, get under there and see where that is dripping from exactly. It might just be this seal right here, and if we go in there for the stator, we'll put a new gasket in anyway. It is just usually on this side, right around there, so it might just be that, and that will be good. So what we're gonna do is pull these out. It's probably pretty easy. They're just crimped in there and then heat shrink on there, so it probably won't be hard to get those wires apart. I don't want to disturb anything else. The battery's fully charged right now. You can see we have our side covers here. They will be ready to go back on. Do they just snap in? I don't see anything. Yeah, I think they just snap in. And then here's our gas cap. I'll clean that up a little bit later. We already cleaned up this. I do have a new one coming, so I'll decide then which one we use because I'm not sure how that gasket's gonna fit in there. I think you fit the gasket into the tank and then you insert this and then it lines up. Here is all the stuff brought out to the shop to do the soldering on the wires. So we're gonna do those right. And then I did put the cover on the air cleaner. So basically we're putting this back together, finding all the parts. So if this works and then it charges correctly and the stator alternating power goes through the regulator rectifier into the battery, if that doesn't drain, see those things are heating up, so then it doesn't conduct power as it should. Otherwise, I think we'll be good. We just need to get the tires swapped out and I think we'll be fine once that's all done. We do need to, again, look at that oil, make sure it just drips a little bit, but it sits a while and makes a puddle. But we need to make sure it always has enough oil in. I don't remember. I think we probably did an oil change on this bike at one point. If not, we will have to do that. And I think we just have a spin-on oil filter on the bottom. I don't remember if it's on the front, on the back. I think it's on the back. But anyway, oh yeah, chain. That'll have to be looked at and oiled. It looks pretty decent, which is surprising. I'm glad. But those are typically, this thing sat outside for a while. So anyway, we're gonna work on getting that soldered up better. I have had a lot of people yelling at me for just doing the cheap press-on connectors. And as I did notice, it does heat up. And that's probably our charging issue and why after it runs for a while, it gets tired and then eventually it shuts off. So that's probably that reason. Otherwise, we'll be able to put the tank back on and make this thing look like a Shadow. Make it look like a VLX again. So when we get to that, basically, I'll just probably pull these right out of here. It's probably not going to take much. Grab one end and the other and probably just yank it and it'll be fine. And then we'll actually set them up, solder each wire individually. Doesn't matter which one you do, as long as each one goes to one. So you have yellow wires going to yellow black, and as long as each of them has a good strong connection, you'll be good. All right, real quick, I got them all cleaned up. I don't know if I ripped some wire off because that one's too short. That's probably not making any connection. These two look fine. This one's good and long. This one, not good and long at all. That would not have been making a good connection. And also, this one's pretty short. It's okay, but we'll cut these back So we have lots of good wire that we can solder in. And then obviously we can't be removing this regulator rectifier without cutting the wires again, and we don't want to do that. So anyway, here's our wire, and let's get some good long, oh, also make sure it's routed correctly, because otherwise you're gonna be stuck around, like if you accidentally do it when it's out here, out outside the frame, you're gonna be stuck with your wire hanging outside the frame. I'm setting up to solder these guys. Make sure if you're using heat shrink tubing, you slide it over the wire before you make your connection. And then push that back so it's out of the way as far as possible. If you don't do that, you'll probably end up wrapping these in electrical tape, and that's what you'll have to go with. So one at a time, I'll slide. They'll probably fall off, but I'll slide them on anyway. All three of these so I don't forget. And then we'll get to it. Make sure you get your wires twisted together. I know there's multiple ways, so you do it your favorite way. Right now, these are steady and solid. That's where we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna drop as much solder over all this section as I can. And I'm definitely not teaching you how to solder in this video. That's just something I do. I'm not great at it, but as long as it's solid and has a good connection, hopefully this is all gonna be running great. This looks pretty solid. Tried to get a little bit around the edges. Yep. All right. I tugged on it a bit, and that's not going anywhere. So once it's cool, I think it's cool. Cools down pretty quick. We will run this tube over that and move on to the other two. All right, guys, I never said it was gonna be pretty, but you can see that I soldered these two. They're solid too. Slid the shrink wrap tubing over that one. So would you focus? All right. So these are soldered tight and should carry the amount of power that it needs to from the stator through that wire right there out here into the regulator rectifier. And like I said, if this doesn't work, then I guess we just need to replace the regulator rectifier and the stator, but they seem to be working. We were getting good charge out of the battery or into the battery, so we should be good. Just make sure when you do this, slide those guys over, make sure everything's good, covered, and then get a heat gun and sink these little tubes down. You can go back and tape it over, make sure it's all good to go, and then it's tucked away in here in a safe place and not rubbing up against any metal, any frame, and you should be golden. And if this fails, like I said, we'll just replace them. No biggie. The plug's already gone here, and then this plug goes right up here. So it's two little 10mm nuts here, comes right off. This is the Shadow 600. And then that's a little bit harder. Like I said, we need to figure out where our oil leak is, and if it's coming from here, maybe that's what's gonna happen when we go in there. Maybe that is the gasket that's leaking, but gotta figure that out. So anyway, this is it for now. I'm gonna go get a heat gun and we're gonna sink these down, and I'll see you on the next one. As we reassemble this Shadow, we have the tank here. I wanted to show you, the new one did come in. Now, here's the question. Old, original, I think, petcock here. We have on is up, reserve is down, and then off is to the right, which I'm looking at. You could say left if you're looking at it differently. But the new one came in, and it's a cheapo, but it's worth pointing out that reserve is kind of to the left upper, and off is to the left if you're holding it straight up and down. And then on is all the way down here. So the question is, you don't see this from the bike. This is buried down the middle, and then we have a screw. Now it does work with the screw. We have a long handle, for lack of better terms. I should have that here to show you. And then you just screw it into there, into the petcock. So that's going to be different. Now, over here, it does tell you where the fuel thing is. So our handle comes out here. Let me go get that. Okay, so here is the handle, and printed on here is reserve, off, and on, which I don't know where these are set, either of them. But here you can see if on is up here, on is up here, that line's up there, reserve is down, and then off, we would turn it, over here's off. Okay. I don't know. Would this work? I mean, I don't know. These are different. This doesn't really line up either. I guess when it's up, the fuel points down. So that tells us that's the indicator. So when you turn this, it's going to be off, judging on how this is turned. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know if this would work or not, but it would definitely, I don't know. I'm going to use the OEM one now that it's clean. Hopefully it's clean and gas will flow. The other question is, as long as it doesn't leak, because we have this and our gasket will fit in here, and then we'll put the rest in. So if this leaks, then I guess we're moving on to the new one, which has the gasket on the filter, and it's a little bit bigger. And I guess that would just fit up in there as this one does. That's the gasket. It's just a little bit different, maybe an updated piece, but hopefully this gasket doesn't leak on us. I believe it fits right in there, and we'll screw it in. Hey, here's our shadow tank, and I put acetone back in here once I put on the petcock to see if we had any leaks. Everything is dry. All of our solder joints, our solder holes are dry. Nothing is giving me an issue. The petcock is actually fully functioning. Actually, I'm gonna turn it and see if we get anything coming out, because we do need to drain this or let it dry. Acetone will dry, but right now, I think I'm gonna turn it and see if I can get some fuel flow and see how good that is. And now that everything's dry and put back together, this guy can go back on the bike. Whoop. All right, still no leaks down here. And when I shake the tank around, I do get gas flow, or in this case, acetone out through here. I'm not sure acetone is the best for hoses and seals either. But anyway, it's running, and I guess it can't be as bad as gasoline. It's just thinner. Maybe I should just use thinner from now on. Anyway, it might be cheaper than acetone. I'm getting a headache from this acetone, so I'm gonna let this dry and leak, and hopefully it's ready to go by the time we come back to it. We are out here to make this look more like a shadow. My gas line, this bike's been running. My gas line leaks a little bit from this side of the petcock, the shut off. And like I said, we still have that leak down low. But the tank, make sure you route your gas line under here. So that's gonna go under there. And then I think we have a pad to put on. So that gas line is gonna come out. We're gonna pull this off, stick it on there where the filter is. And then we should be able to go and get this thing back together. I do not have the fuel petcock hooked up, the extra handle. The petcock's hooked up and everything. Oh, I should slide this back on there, even though it's not leaking, but that's a cheap little fastener there. But let's get her hooked in. Like I said, these pop on there. They have two little inserts under there, and we'll put this thing one step closer to getting on the road. Here we are, making the shadow look a little more like a shadow. Got the gas tank on. Make sure you run your gas line from the tank under the frame here. And then I have to look. I don't think I have another pad for this. There might be something, but it rests on this plastic here, so maybe we don't have anything additional. But yes, you can see. Sorry guys, it's so cold. This fuel line will line right up with the filter. Once we pull that off and let it run itself. I did not put the extender for the petcock because then it wouldn't fit in there very well. So now we just have to attach that to the petcock, which is kind of buried at the moment. But we'll shove things out of the way and get this bike one step closer to hitting the road. I gotta gather up everything that's missing. I think this probably is parts for that bike. And this, I'm kind of assuming, is what goes here. And then make sure that this is all secured. And actually, I don't even know if I secured it to this end. It wasn't leaking, but a little bit of extra security will be fine. All right, I checked the schematic, and apparently I should have a rubber piece to put under there, which I don't know that I have, so I don't know if it came with it. But this screw does go in there. I found the gas cap, which works with the key. I had to WD-40 everything inside in here because it wasn't like releasing. And now when you push it down, it snaps into place and releases the key. So yeah, we gotta tighten that down. Got a clamp on there. So everything's going good. Now we have to figure out how to mount this. This is the fuel petcock here. And you gotta fish it down through there and make sure it goes onto your petcock. And this is the handle basically. So it sets up to on, reserve, and off. So you gotta make sure that you screw it in right. You're probably wondering, how does it stay on there? Well, that's square in there. Oh, look at that. I guess you can't really get it wrong because one of these corners is not sharp. So I guess it goes on one way and one way only if you don't force it. So I'll have to see which way that is down there. And then we can probably get this thing running. So again, have the oil leak. I think it's coming from this. And we do have a new stator. And if we need to take that off, we will. Otherwise, I might just watch it. And I think we need to change the oil anyway. So at this point, let's just do this. Got this installed and it's on reserve. See how that comes out there. And now our gas tank is still dry and solid. So we're gonna put fuel in here and see if we have any leaks. Non-ethanol fuel for sure. First time gas has been in here since we cleaned it out. So let's get her going. Now remember, this pickup is way up in the middle of the tank. So even if we have it in here, I had to wait till I saw it coming down in here into the fuel filter. So like I said, as long as we don't see any drips, I'm not seeing any active drips. That means we have fuel up high enough that it's getting to the filter, or yeah, into the filter, into the petcock, and out the line. So at this point, non-ethanol fuel, I hope it's still good. It's been sitting for a little bit. But at this point, we can put the cap back on. See, this guy's all cleaned up on the inside. Like I said, I took WD-40 to make sure that all that was running, working correct. And now all we should really have to do is drop it in here straight with the... Oh, it's locked. That's why. It jumped back. Okay. Now we should be able to just push down until it latches. You don't want to force this or you'll bend your key. Come on. It's still being a little bit difficult. You're going to have two hands when you do this and not have a camera. So just pop that in. Come on. Yeah, it does it off camera. Is that it? Pop. It has to release it. There you go. I was probably talking when that click happened. There you go. That's ready. And now we should be ready to start her up. This should run. Let's see. Do we need choke? She starts pretty easily. Here we go.